So this is my Vanmoof Electrified S2, which looks great, except that with only 100 kilometers on the clock we had a puncture due to this nasty little spring that I picked up somewhere on the cycle path. So as you can see, I put the bike on its stand and I've got all my tools ready. So I've got a new tube, I've got the tyre levers, and I've got the toolkit that Vanmoof supplied, including the special nut to unlock the front wheels. On a normal bike, changing the tube would be really straightforward, but obviously what we've got here is a hub, and that's got wires, so that's the first thing that we need to undo. So just in the background there on the back fork are the two Allen keys that I've got to do to remove the cover, to release the plug and socket, to pull them apart. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. So like anything, it's never straightforward. So what you get supplied on the European bikes are these things here, which is what I showed you earlier, and that's an Allen key 4 and 5. Whereas the USA pack, where you have to fit your own front wheel when you get the bike, includes the 3mm Allen key 3 on the right there, and of course that's not supplied for us Europeans, so perhaps they thought we weren't going to get a puncture, but it's pretty annoying to find that the Allen key that you need isn't included. Fortunately I've got one of my own, which brings me to the next problem. Well, perhaps not such a problem, but it's certainly awkward. A standard Allen key isn't going to be very easy to get that cover off, because it's just awkward with all the spokes and the wheel in the way. Anyway, I'm going to undo that with a bit of a faff, and then I'm going to cut to when the cover's removed. So that's the cover removed, revealing the plug and socket for the electrical cable, which I'm going to tease out of the frame and then disconnect. So hopefully if the sun isn't too bright you can see that I've pulled the cable through and you can see the socket. Okay, so to loosen off the wheel nuts you need the special wheel nut for your locking wheel nut for your bike, and you need the spanner. Only here's the next problem: the short handled thin spanner they provide just won't cut it. It just won't, the nuts are on too tight. So rather than cut into my hand, I'm going to use a proper spanner to actually loosen those nuts off. Obviously they've been tightened on really quite tight. I expect it's the right torque, but too much for that little spanner that's supplied. So you can see the cable's disconnected in the background, and here the wheel nuts are loosened off on this side, and I've actually removed it on this side. However, the wheel's not coming out easily. I know that there's a special washer in there from the USA fitting instructions, so I'm just going to fiddle with that now to try and get that wheel to drop down. This is the stubborn bit. It's really tight into the fork here, so much so that I've had to remove the bike from the frame and then use a piece of wood underneath and then tap slightly and gently upwards to release it. Fortunately, I think it's now free enough for me to lift the wheel out. moving the nut on the other side that I'd put on just to stop it dropping onto the floor. So there we go. So now it's out, and perhaps I can now repair that puncture. Okay, I'm not going to insult you by showing you how to change the tube. There's plenty of that on YouTube. So now we come to refitting. So what we've got to do is make sure that the side with the cable on. So at the moment I've got the bike upside down, so I'm doing the opposite to what the American instructions say. So the cable is now pointing upwards. Just checking it to make sure that it's okay, which it is. And then on the other side we've got to fit the non-turn washer. So that goes on there, and that's going to be facing down too, so in the same direction as the cable. And then we can put that back on. Carefully guiding the brakes into their calibre and into the holes into each side. Okay. So this side has dropped straight down, and it was loose when we came out. But this side hasn't dropped all the way down. So we're just going to give that a little tap with my bit of wood and my wooden mallet again, just to make sure that that's seated properly so that it turns square or true or even round. Okay, so I've made sure that that's properly located and the wheel turns okay, and I've also connected up the cable, making sure that I've lined up the arrows. There's one nice white one and the other one's dark black moulded into the casing. I've also made sure that I've got my non-turn washer in. That's the silver bit here. Okay, and that's seated nicely, and the brake's sitting in okay. So now I'm going to refit the wheel nuts. So I do have a torque wrench, so I've set that up to 30 Newton meters as per the instruction booklet, and I've torqued those evenly on both sides. So the final thing to do now is to tuck that cable away back into the frame as much as possible, noting that this cable runs on the inside. Have we got, oh, there you go, on the inside of the mud flap stay. Okay, and then I'm going to refit the cover. Of course, dealing with a puncture is never easy, but those two little screws holding the plastic cover on that shields the cable, they were awkward, shall we say. Yeah, lesson for Vanmoof there, you need to rethink that. Okay, so punctures, never a pleasant thing to get, but here we go, we've got it all done, we've pumped it back up, and hopefully I'll be back on the road again tonight. So let's get back and see if we can start enjoying this bicycle again.